Hello, welcome to Brake Check. I'm Brian, and today we're driving a 2020 Subaru BRZ for the first time. This is the limited trim, and the only option is the Performance Pack. Puts it just over $30,000. After destination, it's about $31,000. This particular car was provided by Subaru Hiley of Fort Worth. Thanks to them for always supporting the show, and let's get into it. All right, so I want to start with what this car is. This is the alternative to a Miata. If you don't want a convertible, this is it for you. It's a 2+2 coupe. More of a two-seat with an insurance backseat. I'm not sure that I would put human beings back there, but if you need to put a kid in the right rear while the driver's in the left front, it could work. We'll talk about that more in the interior. But more importantly, this one comes with the Brembo package, which is part of the Performance Pack, which includes these 17-inch wheels, which look awesome, and Brembo's front and rear, all around. This one is in Silica Mica Black. It looks really good, and it has the optional 17-inch wheels that come with the Performance Pack. It's all part of the kit together. There's some of those rear Brembos right there. While this design is getting a little bit long in the tooth, I still think it looks good. It looks sharp. It's kind of standing on its own. There is no 240 SX, there is no S13 or anything like that. The Miata is really its only competition, and that's a convertible only, or roadster, hardtop, retractable. As someone who's 6'4", I can fit in this. I could drive this daily if I wanted to, whereas with a Miata, I would have to do things to it to make that even possible. So, extra points for that right out of the bat. Come around to the back. You'll see this spoiler. This is part of the Performance Pack as well, which is nice. Down low we have a diffuser that is textured, but it's not carbon fiber, but it has a little bit of a texture to it. It's not just flat or painted, which is nice. Dual exhaust tips, which look really good and actually sound really good too. And let's check out the utility side of things. Let's get into the trunk. Boy, oh boy, look at that. We've got our camera box here, and I could probably get 5 of these in here if I really needed to, maybe 6. It's not huge, but keep in mind, it's a small car. It's not meant to be a utility player. It does come with a full-size spare, which is nice, and will be immediately removed for track duty, which is really what this car is about. You could daily drive it. You probably should daily drive it, but you don't have to. You could just go straight to the track and just love everything about it. Let's keep going around. Check out the taillights. I do like the taillights a lot. They kind of have this swoop design, and also a turn signal built into the middle and backup lights. Even has a little fin on the side, which, look, I know fins are long gone with the 50s, but that's probably the closest we're going to get to today. I think it looks pretty good. Come right to the front. It is a low car, okay? You do have these Michelin tires. They are very quiet, have pretty good grip, but not the most grip, which I think makes it more fun to drive. That's just my personal opinion. Let's check out the headlights. We've got a kind of the same theme from the taillight as brought to the front. These are projector bulbs with LED bulbs and projector housings. Also LED fog lights down below, which are part of the limited package, which I really like. All right, come on inside here. So here is the business end of this car, and it's right where the driver sits. I want to start with the good things first. You have a leather wrap steering wheel that is bolstered just right, with indents for the driver's hands right here and thumbs. Really good. Manual shifter, thank goodness it's a manual. These things are dying, and this one's a good one. The ratios are close together, and it's fun to drive. You do have to keep it revved up, and we'll talk about that more on the drive in a minute. A downside is that 6th gear, while it's overdrive, it's not much of one, so I wouldn't call this a grand tourer, but it is still fun to take on a track. Down in the center, you do have traction control and track, which means no stability control options. This one has heated seats, and I love the seats. They have BRZ embroidered on the top, contrast red stitching with the Alcantara and black leather. Came out really well, really happy with that. Time for a couple negatives that I do want to comment on. It's not the quietest thing to drive on the highway. We have really loud Texas highways here, so it's a little noisy, but for what it is, it's on par with its competition. The radio. While this one's not branded as an aftermarket Pioneer brand like the FRS used to have when it first came out, this does feel aftermarket. It feels like it may have been purchased at Best Buy and thrown in here. Now it feels like a good one, but it doesn't feel like it's an integrated from ground zero part of the car. Now the benefit of that is it's very tuner friendly. If you don't like this one, just put a different one in. The way this bezel is designed, it's easy to change it out. A lot of new cars require a completely different bezel setup, and it's just not even really possible. This one is independent enough. That's kind of a plus. If it's a tuner car, that's important. The other big gripe ergonomically, there's no armrest in this car. And just over $30,000, it's really kind of a letdown. Around town, on track, you don't want it in the way, and it's not in the way. But if you're gonna daily drive this for, say, more than half an hour at a time, you're gonna wanna look at some kind of solution for that, and I'm sure there's plenty out there. Gauge cluster, man, love this thing. They're really good about putting the tach dead center and the speedo on the left out of the way. Now, while the speedo is very optimistic at 160 miles an hour, I don't think it needs to be that high. It's actually kind of hard to read. You have to take time to look at it and make sure you're reading the speedo right. But they've thought of that too. There's a digital readout built into the tach on the right side of the tach, which is really intuitive and quick to use. I like that a lot. One more gripe with this thing is that the clock, come take a look at this, is straight out of a 90s Toyota Camry. It's showing it's Toyota right here. I know it says Subaru on the hood, but it's no fooling anybody on that. It is a little bit charming. It does take me back a little bit to the good old days of simplicity, and this is a simple car, so it fits for it. And the piece de resistance, the FD20 four popper. Let's check it out. Look at that. Man, you see it. There's no turbos here, but you do have a crinkle red powder coated aluminum metal intake manifold, which is kind of nice because nowadays everything's composite and black plastic, so it does look cool. There's some points for that. It is a simple car, in a time where everything's hybrid or electric or turbocharged. It's a little bit refreshing to drive something that feels like it's from the late 90s, early 2000s in conception and use. Let's take it for a drive and see how it feels. First thing is first, listen to the power band. There's no turbos here. It's definitely a momentum machine. So the infamous torque dip is still present in this car, even though this is the second generation of this motor. It's so obvious actually that the power graph and the gauges show the dip right around 4,000 RPM where it loses torque. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I wish Subaru had a solve for that. The exhaust note is quite entertaining. It is a little bit boy racer. The engine intake sound isn't quite as gratifying. It does kind of sound like someone's gargling ball bearings or something metallic. It's really bizarre. Whereas an ND2 Miata sounds good on intake. It has really good throaty sounds. This doesn't so much. That being said, it's getting the job done. It does remind me of an 80s Toyota, which sounds like a bad thing, but I'm going to call it a good thing. There's some charm to it. It does feel indestructible. It feels like you can be as mean as you want to it, and it's going to do it again tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after, and for your kids and your grandkids for as long as they want to keep it. Now, the performance pack that we have in this car has Sachs dampers, which are a little bit more firm than the standard one. The engine does make 205 horsepower, all the way at 7,000 RPM. You gotta reach for it. It's not going to be down low. This is definitely a driver's car. You have to work for it. There are no turbos, and that means that you have to do that. There's nothing down low. Now, do I wish they had an STI version of this? Yes, just like the rest of the internet. Subaru's done really well with turbochargers at stock boost levels. I know someone's going to comment below and talk about ringland failure and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go there with that. This car would be a ton of fun with about 300 horsepower. That being said, with the 200 horsepower that it has and the 156 little bit of torque that it has, it's still a fun thing to have. It's still fun on a back road. And it's still more comfortable than you think it is. I have room in here, which is amazing. The ND2 Miata is my spirit animal, and I really can't feasibly own one. Here's the hill. It's like I'm on a bicycle. I've had to downshift 3 or 4 times. The shift light's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Okay, so it has the Brembos on it. Let's try the brakes out. It's pretty good. It's a light car. I don't honestly think it needs that much brake, but man, they're gonna last forever on track. All in all, there's something refreshing about this car. Well, it's not the fastest or the slowest. It doesn't feel fast ever, but it also never feels intimidating. It's very approachable for a new driver that wants to learn at being a better driver. Its back to basics approach really is refreshing. Nowadays cars have too many touchscreens, they have all these nannies in the way of you and what your inputs are. You tell this car to do something, it does it. That's really refreshing, and I'll always appreciate it for that. Okay, enough fun with that. Let's talk about the steering for a minute. Being a light car, it's going to be dynamic out of the gate. The turn-in's really good, it's pretty sharp. The feeling of the steering is not brilliant though. I think the Miato's feeling of steering is just a little bit better. A little more feedback to the driver. I will say the Sachs dampers dampen really well, but they're not the softest on the road. So if you're looking for a Buick, don't look here. And again, the road noise is going to be a problem if you do a lot of highway driving, but that's not what this thing is for. This is meant for a back road. I think it will do a great job at that. If you like sports cars, then power isn't your end game. This is the car for you, and it's kind of the only car for you. You go anywhere else, you're going to have more power, and you're going to have more power to the ground problems, which this won't have that issue. So if drifting's not your thing out of the box, this is for you. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.